Roop's here.
Morning, Roop.
What's up, Holden? How's your football team?
Not too good. I lost Cortland Sutton, and Drew Bach last week. That's not good.
Ouch.
That's okay. I like the fact that your league doesn't have any waiver rules. That's nice.
Yeah, it is. I like that as well.
It just means the early bird gets the worm. And if you're watching the game, middle of halftime, someone gets hurt, you can go snatch somebody up. Just rewards people who pay attention.
Good morning. Sylvie's here.
Good morning.
Ryan and I are in a league that the waiver requires you to wait until Wednesday morning, so everybody gets a chance to get the worm.
Maida Coleman is here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I believe I heard Commissioners Roop and Holzman. Is Commissioner Kenny on? Guess not. Yeah, Commissioner Holzman, I saw you made some waiver moves today.
I did. My when I draft consistently across the board in all my teams, when those players go down, it's an earthquake for my squad. So losing Sutton, I lost him in all three. Drew Lock in all three. I took a flyer on Herndon, lost, dropped him in all three. So I had some moves to make.
Kenny's here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning. Tough losing those players in that fantasy league, huh?
Do you play fantasy football? That's a fair question.
Never in my life. I've never played it.
I guess it's probably tough to play fantasy after you've played for real.
Yeah. Have you noticed how many guys getting hurt real early? No preseason. No.
Yep.
They've gone from no pads ever. In practice, is very little anymore. It's tough.
Yeah, it was a lot of injuries this week.
I'm shocked that COVID's not flying around those teams. It just amazes me.
Yeah, there really hasn't been hardly any players out with that. It's all been legit hamstrings and ACLs and ankles.
Yeah, losing Barkley and McCaffrey, a lot of teams just got thrown a curveball.
That new field in New York's getting some heat. How many players went down last week on that?
Yeah, I saw the league
Brand new field.
They had to address it. Okay, it's 10:15. We are all in attendance, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Again, due to COVID-19, we'll continue conducting our agendas via WebEx for the foreseeable future. Ask those that are participating on the call, please mute your phone unless you need to speak. There will be an Evergy TOU presentation at the end of today's agenda in file numbers ER 2018-0145 and ER 2018-0146. And the sixth order on today's agenda has been withdrawn. That is file number MC 2020-0135, dealing with manufactured homes. So that leaves us with 5 tariffs and new orders. one other discussion, and then the TOU presentation. So we'll go ahead and get started. Tariffs and new orders. First up is file number EU 2020-0350. This is in the matter of the application of Evergy Metro, DBA Evergy Metro and Evergy Missouri West for an accounting authority order allowing companies to record and preserve costs related to COVID-19 expenses. I recommend that we support this order as drafted, version 1. Commissioner Kinney,
I'm in support.
Commissioner Roop,
Yeah, I'm supporting the order.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted, version 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number AW 2021-0070. This is in the matter of the establishment of a working case regarding the commission rule governing revenue stabilization mechanisms. Staff had requested that a commission, that we open a working docket to be a repository for comments about potential rules for the structure, content, and operation of revenue stabilization mechanisms. This order grants the requests and opens a file where anyone with an interest in the matter can share their thoughts. This is not a contested case, so ex parte constraints are not applicable, and submitted comments and requests to intervene are not required. So I support the order opening the case and directing notice to be provided, version 1. Commissioner Kinney,
I support the order as well.
Commissioner Roop,
I support the order.
Commissioner Coleman. I'm sorry, Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order. Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving the order as drafted, version 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. Next up, file number WM 2020-0282. This is in the matter of the application of Confluence Rivers Utility Operating Company, Inc. to acquire certain water and sewer assets for certificates of convenience and necessity. Confluence Rivers filed an application for CCN to acquire water and sewer assets for various regulated systems like Branson Cedars, Fawn Lake, Prairie Heights, and Freeman Hills Subdivision Association's sewer utility. Staff performed a review and submitted a recommendation to the commission to approve the application. However, there is some information that wasn't provided in the record that the commission would like to see. So this order directs Confluence Rivers to respond to some specific questions with supplemental information. And I recommend that we support this order as drafted, version 2. Commissioner Kinney,
I support the order as well.
Commissioner Roop,
I am in support.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Great. All those in favor of approving the order
Chairman.
as drafted, version 2, say aye. Oh, hold on. Yes, Judge?
I apologize very much for interrupting. The order that's going to the company, which I believe is the order that you're voting on now, is a version 1 order. And there's another order you're going to consider today that's version 2 to staff. And you were just about to vote on a version 2 for the company one. So I apologize.
Thank
But I
you,
think-
Judge.
okay.
Yes, those are swapped on my notes. So this is the version 1 for the company. I apologize. So all those in favor of approving the order as drafted, version 1, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That order is approved 5-0. And also, in my haste, I got started on the orders without approving the amendment or the minutes from our last meeting. So
I was scared to say something, Mr. Chairman.
I knew if I didn't correct it soon that I was going to get called out. So you have seen those minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? September 16th. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes for September 16th, 2020, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved 5-0. Okay, so that brings us to number 4, which is file number WM 2020-0282, Also in the matter of the application of Confluence Rivers Utility Operating Company to acquire certain water and sewer assets and for certificates of convenience and necessity. So as the judge pointed out, similar to the prior order, this order is seeking additional information concerning Confluence Rivers Utility Operating Company's CCN. However, instead of the company, this order directs staff to provide additional information. So I support this order directing responses regarding staff's recommendation, version 2. Commissioner Kinney,
I'm in support.
Commissioner Roop,
I'm in support.
Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right. All those in favor of approving this order as drafted, version 2, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is also approved 5-0. And the final one for today is file number EW 2021-0077. This is in the matter of the establishment of a working case regarding the Commission's rule governing cogeneration. Last week, the Commission discussed proposed rulemaking revisions to our cogeneration and small power producer rule in 20 CSR 4240-20.060. After discussion, the majority of commissioners decided it would be appropriate to withdraw that draft rule and instead revisit the issue in a new working docket that may consider some of the recent FERC revisions to the rules regarding purpose. So that is this to set that up. And as I mentioned last week, I'm wanting this process to move as quickly as humanly possible. So with that, I recommend that we support this order as drafted, version 2. Commissioner Kinney,
I support the order.
Commissioner Roop,
Yeah, obviously, I wish we would have been able to make the changes that Renew Missouri and other stakeholders had put forth, but that not being the case, I am excited to see that this is already teed up and ready to go. And I hope that everybody gets the information that they need to move forward with those proposed amendments that we saw and gathers all the information they need to move this ball forward. So I will be supporting the order.
thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Coleman,
I support the order.
and Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
All right, all those in favor of approving this order as drafted, version 2, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That order is approved 5-0. So with the withdrawal of number 6, that brings us to the conclusion of reports and new orders. We do have other discussions. First is the annual federal USF high cost support certification discussion. I believe John Van Eschen and Nattel are on the phone to discuss that. So please proceed.
Okay, Nattel isn't on the call. This is John Van Eschen,
Okay.
and a packet of information has been circulated to the commission regarding the annual certification. And this is money that is distributed to companies to ensure voice and broadband services are available in high-cost areas. And this money comes out of the Federal Universal Service Fund. It amounted to about $195 million in 2019 for Missouri companies. And Appendix A in the packet of information is a memo explaining the process. And essentially, the FCC wants a state commission to certify companies eligible to receive this federal USF high cost support within the state are using the support as intended. And all 58 companies seeking certification from the Missouri Commission are being recommended for certification. And attachment A is the certification we're asking the commission to approve. Quite a bit goes into looking at these companies. Missouri rules require these companies to make an annual filing with the commission. This filing includes a company officer attesting to a series of statements that the company is using the support appropriately. A company also needs to file a copy of their Form 41, which is the FCC's federal annual report filed by these companies. And all the companies made those appropriate filings. This year we did something different, and as the commission is aware, a case was opened to obtain more detailed information about a company and its funding obligations. And so staff did send a series of 27 data requests to all these companies, and all the companies responded. And the information compiled from these data request responses was put into an information sheet developed for each company. And this provides information about the company's history, their number of subscribers, the type of technology that the company is using, where their call centers are at. It contains explanations from the companies on how they're specifically using the funding, their future plans, and they also go into the specific broadband deployment obligations, if any, that are associated with specific funding. We didn't attempt to circulate those sheets. They are on the Commission's G Drive on a confidential basis. Attachment B in the packet is an example of one for one company. Attachment C is attempting to summarize some of the noteworthy items contained on these information sheets for all the companies. I do want to point out that the Commission's Customer Experience Department has been involved in this process, and they assisted by selecting 7 companies for closer scrutiny of consumer-related issues, and additional data requests were sent to those 7 companies, and the Customer Experience Department submitted a report, and that's identified as Attachment D in the packet circulated to you. I think overall, many of the companies are providing or striving to provide top of the line service, which includes fiber to the home broadband service. The memo does point out one potential area of concern involving some companies that have failed to meet their broadband funding deployment obligations. However, this failure isn't significant enough per the FCC rules to warrant any further action at this time. And I will point out that most broadband deployment obligations for most of the companies really don't start kicking in until next year or later. This certification is needed by October 1st, and we're asking that the Commission approve the certification identified in Attachment A.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Commissioners, you have all of the data that was just presented. So we will need a motion for approving the certification of those 58 companies. But as Commissioner Kinney is the chairman of the board for USB, I will look to him for guidance. So Commissioner Kinney.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say I appreciate that detailed explanation, and I'm very great. I think Missouri's done an excellent job. We'll have hit all our goals by the end of this year, and my compliments to the staff and those that have worked towards initiate that, and the companies. And I would move that your motion be moved.
Okay, so
I second.
we have a motion to approve the certification of all 58 companies from Commissioner Kinney, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion is approved 5-0. Thank you, John. And that brings us to the presentation from Evergy. Since that's the last thing we have going, I want to go ahead and take care of scheduling first, and then we'll just go to that and be able to adjourn. So Thursday, September 24th, we have an evidentiary hearing in EC 2020-0252. That's Edwards v. Evergy, Missouri West at 9 a.m. in room 310. Judge Jacobs presiding. Hearing will be in person, though some people will be participating via WebEx. Wednesday, September 30th, agenda at 10:15 a.m. Also Wednesday, September 30th through Thursday, October 1st, an evidentiary hearing in EU 2020-0350. Evergy's application for an AAO related to COVID-19 expenses at 9 a.m. That's in room 310. Judge Jacobs also presiding. Again, will be in person, but some participants joining via WebEx. Wednesday, October 7th, agenda at 10:15 a.m. Monday the 12th is again a state holiday. Wednesday, October 14th, agenda at 10:15 a.m. The FRI Public Utility Symposium is going to be held virtually this year, and it is also on that day. Wednesday, October 21st, agenda at 10:15 a.m. Thursday, October 22nd through Friday, October 23rd, we have an evidentiary hearing in GU 2020-0376. That's Spire's application for an AAO related to COVID-19 impacts at 9 a.m. in room 310. That's Judge Pridgeon. And then Wednesday, October 28th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Are there any comments, requests, or questions regarding scheduling through October 28th? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and get to Evergy for the presentation, and then we will adjourn immediately following the presentation. So this is on the residential time of use update in file numbers ER 2018-0145 and ER 2018-0146. I understand Brian File will be the presenter for this.
Good morning, Chairman Sullivan, Commissioners. This is Matt Doherty, Director of Regulatory Affairs at Evergy. Can you all hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Well, good morning, and thanks for having us present related to our time of use rate. And as you know, per the order in our last rate review where we implemented the rates, the stipulation included language for us to provide parties and commissioners updates on the time of use program and activities. Our last update to commissioners was December 11th, 2019, where we provided a detailed overview of our program design and our marketing outreach and education campaign that we were just beginning to roll out at the time. And that presentation is also on file with the Commission for reference. So today we're here to provide an update on the status of the time of use rate and the results of the marketing outreach and education campaign to date. So I did want to introduce Brian File, our Director of Demand Side Management, whose group has responsibility for the time of use rate program, and he'll be presenting the updates to the Commission today. Brian works in Kim Winslow's Energy Solutions Group, who provided you the last update in December. Kim is also on the phone today. And then also on the call is Katie McDonald, our Senior Director of Corporate Communications and Marketing, and Jeff Beeson, Manager of Marketing, both who have been very instrumental in the development and execution of the time of use rate marketing outreach and education campaign. So thank you for the opportunity to present. And with that, I will turn it over to Brian.
Thanks, Matt.
Welcome, Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us to your agenda session today. It's my pleasure to provide an update on a subject that has got a lot of interest in Missouri, time of use, and the work that Evergy's been doing since we last talked in December. As Matt mentioned, my name is Brian File. I lead the demand side management, which includes rates implementation, but also energy efficiency, demand response at renewables in our group. So I look forward to chatting with you a little bit about time of use. Let's get into the agenda. So we're going to share some exciting news on the progress of our time of use rollout in Evergy's Missouri territories. We're going to start off with participation numbers right away. And teaser alert, they're good. So that's going to be positive news. Then we'll go into how we educated and engaged customers as a result of those efforts, those marketing efforts. We'll dig a little bit into customer feedback, as it's a big part of the learning process that we want to hit on what we've been hearing from customers as they go through the time of use journey. And then followed by a question that's probably on a lot of people's minds in the industry and in general is, what's the impact of COVID-19 on this particular rollout and the results, and some considerations there we'll talk about. And we'll wrap up with next steps in our execution plan and when you'll hear from Evergy next on this topic. During today's presentation, it probably goes without saying, but feel free to ask questions as we progress through. We'll try our best to answer those with those myself and those on the phone, but of course, if follow up if we need to gather more information for you. All right, well, let's start with participation. We wanted to make sure that that was an important part to hit first, because with this rollout, a big part of what we're doing here is we're learning, right? And we want to learn how customers are engaging with us in this new style rate. And of course, in any study, in any initial rollout, you need to have enough valid participation, a valid amount of participation to analyze and learn from. So as you see, the customers have really taken to the time of use opportunities since we last talked in December, and we've surpassed our enrollment goals in both territories, 118% to goal. Yes, I'm doing a fist pump over here that you can't see. This is compared to the stipulated target of 1750 in each jurisdiction that was chosen to kind of get a representative sample to do the analysis on. When we look back at how participation developed over the course of the last time we talked, we saw the largest spike in February and early March when our widespread marketing went out and started, including our first rate education report. That led to a couple months of 800 to 1,000 people signing up as new enrollments for the time of use program. Otherwise, we average around 250 a month as a steady state activity. Just another example of the effectiveness of the marketing that we do and when we have that in the field. You might be thinking, well, what about unenrollments in this crazy time? So we've definitely been monitoring those closely and actually been pleasantly surprised that they've stayed within industry norms of around 8 to 15%, even in this unprecedented time. So we've had a little over 700 enrollments through this period, and some of which may well be move-outs. We have yet to do the full analysis on that, but those obviously are customers that will be unenrolled when they move out of a location. But our overall churn turns out to be about 2 to 3% per month. Another thing we're excited about is to see the self-service channel continues to be the primary tool customers use for engaging with this rate. You see on the right part of the slide there, we've highlighted 93% of customers sign up for the rate through self-service channels, primarily online. This speaks clearly to the high quality education and marketing done for customers that's out in the field and our website to make the choice easy and the process simple. So while we've surpassed the goal for the end of 2020 at 118%, there's still a significant customer engagement still planned for the remainder of 2020 and going into 2021. But I want to stop here, pause to see if you have any questions before we'll talk about the educating and marketing that got us to this point.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, just feel free to jump in with any questions at any time. I have no questions at this time.
Cool. All right, we'll keep going. I'll try to leave some pauses in between if you feel like there's something you want to jump on. So we'll do a little bit of a refresher on the education and marketing plan that we discussed back in December to get a baseline on what we've been doing since then. So as a reminder, we built a phased approach to a rollout. We started with employees, educating them on the rate even before we actually made it officially available. And we try to engage them and become more advocates. You maybe saw some of the things that we presented to employees before. We got a little bit of uptake there, maybe 50 or a little less than that in terms of employees, but it helped us really learn on what's resonating with people and how that might work. Then we went into the early adopter phase, which was, folks that are thinking about doing things before everybody else, right? As the technology usually dictates those types of folks that want to be the first. So those helped us ramp up to around 800, 850 or so participants through December, January timeframe. And then we went to the full rollout in February, as I alluded to on the last slide. And that really pushed the enrollment numbers up quite a bit, specifically the marketing that we did, which I'll talk about in a couple slides, as well as the rate education report. Unfortunately, middle of March and end of March happened, and that put a little bit of brakes on our activity, which I'll highlight later, but that slowed down our full customer education campaign, but we really got a good sense of how well that marketing was impacting customers' interest in signing up for the rate, as you saw in the enrollment numbers on the previous page. So we're in the middle of a second phase of that, starting now in September. That'll run through the rest of this year. And we always have some what we call always-on marketing that includes social, digital, email, and web presentment of the TOU rate. So that's a little bit about the approach. Here's a little bit more detail about the customers we were going for, where there's a phase 1 through 4, as we just heard. But the strategy we were trying to bring together here was, have a simple message that connects with customers and they see it consistently across many tactics. Our messaging was around wait till 8. We wanted to have something that's easy to remember and understand that people can latch onto and know what that's associated with. Our marketing team used bold and noticeable creative to help drive this memorable campaign. The arrow across the bottom represents the variety of ways customers would see the time of use rate presented to them, so in order to engage. The next slide that I'll talk about hits a little bit more on that journey as it goes from left to right, as people are engaging with this new rate in Evergy. So our journey really comes down to 3 main prongs. We're talking about awareness, just having customers even aware that this is a new rate, this is a new opportunity for them. The education to help them dig a little bit further. Is this right for me? How will this affect me? And then once they decided that it is right for them, how do we have communications and information that helps them be successful? So you'll see across the bottom there, awareness was things like radio ads, social ads. Here's an example of Facebook. We did video ads with streaming services so that people can just see this message across various places. And the awareness and education, we sent out the rate education report, which I talked a little bit about. You'll see an example of soon. We also sent direct mailers to specific segments that we wanted to make sure really heard about how this rate might work for them. We sent them to LIHEAP customers and to other medical designee customers to help them see how this rate would impact their ability if they were to switch. And then getting customers online was a big component of furthering that education. It allows them to be self-service, do a rate comparison, as you see there as an example here. How much will I pay on this rate over the course of a year? Will I save money? What things can I do? And then lastly, the education success example would be something we'd send out would be welcome kits to new customers that signed up or new participants to the program. That would include things like a little magnet that says wait till 8 on it and helps you know if the dishwasher is clean or dirty. One of those little things. We've had a lot of good feedback on those. So it's just ongoing communication, additionally about performance and how they're doing. Our professional marketing team really designed a great flow to bring customers from general awareness to specific education to ultimately to ongoing success. So next we're going to talk a little bit about those results that came from that designed plan. So the rate education report I've mentioned a couple times. This is the communication piece that was sent to every customer by mail in that February and March timeframe, and to all customers digitally that we had email for. This effectively let customers know about the new TOU rate, as well as explain what the customer would pay on that new TOU rate as compared to their existing rate. And most importantly, other ways that they could benefit from the TOU rate by changing behavior. As you see here on the slide, there's when do you run your dishwasher? How do you run your dryer? What can we do? What will a thermostat help me do? So last December, I believe we provided you sample copies of this report, but Missouri customers each received an individualized report with those usage patterns that's exactly translated to how that rate would work for them. the percentages on the left side of your screen here dictate that as we sent this email out, because email is a little bit easier to track than hard copy, we noticed that 40% of those customers opened up the email, and that is in line with what we see with general Evergy email, but well above industry benchmarks for other retail email traffic that you might think of from Target or other companies like that. And what the interesting part as we drilled down, of those 40% that opened it, 60% really spent time trying to digest and see what this meant to them. So we can tell a little bit about how long they spent on the document as opposed to glancing or skimming. There were those that opened it and spent time reading it, which speaks to the whole point of the education process that we're in here. So as I mentioned, the call to action was to get customers online. Of course, they always have an option of calling, but the self-service nature of the tools we set up hopefully provides more options and more flexibility to when they can check it out from sitting on their couch or first thing in the morning. We wanted to have that option for customers. So the figures that I'm going to show on this slide really show how people engaged for the customers that actually signed up. It showed that 81% of the customers actually did the rate analysis tool before they signed up. So they wanted to make sure, is this rate really right for me? Analysis. Part about the analysis is you can do it and then come back to it later. It doesn't force you to have to go all the way through to click to change the rate right away. But if a couple months later you want to see, hey, is my usage still making sense for this rate plan before I make a decision? You can do that. So it can come back to any time. And what we found is that 60% of customers actually clicked on the change my plan within the tool. So this green call to action button was effective with customers that were engaging there. That it led them right to the signing up for the rate, which is what we were driving towards. So just a little fact here, if you're wondering what kind of demographic types of customers we're seeing respond or not to the time of use offer. A little insight that we've gained thus far, you can probably figure this out from some of my comments before, but tech adopters, working adults, no kids, people that are routine changers as defined by Axiom and other marketing services, they converted well to signing up for the rate as maybe what we thought. Interestingly enough, though, there were a couple groups that we haven't seen quite the uptake that we thought. One of those being electric vehicle owners. The traditional thought is this has a lower off-peak rate. They can charge their car off time, but we haven't seen quite the uptake as maybe we thought. There's probably some theories to why that is. I think maybe Commissioner Stilby, you even actually mentioned that at a prior agenda meeting about EV drivers and maybe not driving as much. So that's a possibility there. And we also saw some not as good conversion from what we quoted as the auto savers group, folks that when we did the rate comparison, it looked like they would save automatically. Now we learned that is important, but it didn't mean that was the only thing that customers would decide on before they signed up for the rate. So we're going to continue to monitor those over time to see what if that evolves. It is a unique time in the world, of course, but that's something that we noted thus far. So once customers are signed up with time of use, as I mentioned, we want to make sure they're successful. And so our program includes what we have titled a rate coach. And it's for customers that have enrolled and provided an email address. They receive weekly insights into how they're using energy and ultimately performing on the time of use rate. Depending on their activity, they get individualized, actionable tips that are presented to help them learn about how to drive better performance on the rate. And so you'll see they get a welcome rate coach email soon after enrolling within 2 weeks. And then we have ongoing emails and then a summary on a monthly basis to help do that. And we find that customers become pretty engaged with this process once they've enrolled. This 70% you see on the left side of the screen is how often customers open up this rate coach. If you compared that to the prior number of 40%, that's a significant bump in terms of activity and engagement with this report. We even see that customers are spending more time on our website looking at their AMI data and the analytics provided to that. I saw a stat that we've had over 20,000 impressions of those AMI graphics for time of use participants, so they can see how they're using energy and what that might affect if they're on the time of use rate. Because ultimately, we feel strongly that it's important to engage with customers regularly, even after signing up, and helping them stay successful in the journey to changing behavior and saving money and being successful on this time of use rate. So that's a little bit about results that we saw from the marketing activity and the customers that interact with them. I'm going to shift a little bit now to the feedback from those customers that gave during the process that helped us continue to refine our messaging, adjust processes where needed, and learn from this ongoing interaction. So you might remember we have a 5-pronged customer feedback mechanism in our agreement that we use to try to gain insights from customers as they engage with this rate. Today, on the next slides, we'll focus on the surveys and interviews section as I present some data there. But I'll just give you a quick update on the other 3 areas: social media, contact center, and website while I'm here. Social media, we continue to treat that as a channel for customer communication where we monitor their questions, we respond in a timely manner. It helps us create FAQ type documents as we're seeing what information and what people are sharing online. As many know, lots of people tend to be less inhibited in their questions and comments online. So it helped us really drive understanding of what customers are thinking. Our contact center interaction with this rate, we've fully trained all of the contact center representatives on standard questions, and as well as to try to overcome objections that they might hear related to the rate, or helping the customers understand why they're getting these rate education reports, even if it doesn't show that they would save, and help them know that we're there helping them, educate them on new rates and offerings from Evergy. And lastly, the website continues to perform well. It is an award-winning website that you've probably heard about in some other presentations, but our opinion surveys show that customers are getting the information while browsing and continually rate us high on a 1 to 5 star ranking. So post-enrollment surveys. So we have over 1,000 customers who have filled out a survey once they enroll in time of use. And we try to think about 3 things here, really. What's their satisfaction with that process? How did they hear about the time of use rate, and why did they enroll? When you think about satisfaction here, this shows that during the enrollment process, 85% of the people rank us an 8, 9, or 10, indicating that they're satisfied with that enrollment process, which we're proud of. When you think about how did they hear, that 3rd bullet point down shows that 74% saw some communications and felt like it was helpful in their decision to enroll in the plan. So it lets us know that our messaging has been heard and is being received in a way to help customers make decisions. And why did they enroll? Saving money on the electric bill, as I alluded to in a couple slides ago. Almost half indicate that that's a major driver and why they want to participate in the rate. So, but after a customer enrolls, we also want to monitor how they are feeling about participation and how's it going. So we also do a post-enrollment surveys to get insights from customers on their satisfaction level. So we have a smaller subset of groups of surveys we sent out to customers here, 200 that we sent out to do a pre-screen survey, and that meant that we're really trying to get down to a smaller group that we could do we were meaning to do in-person interviews, but ended up being phone interviews, that we wanted to gain more insights into what they think. And we found that satisfaction stayed high, still in that 80%, 8 out of 10 folks that wanted to share that they've been satisfied or very satisfied, or somewhat or very satisfied with the program. That wait till 8 tagline still rings true with customers as they are participating in the program. And appliances like dishwashing and clothes washing continue to come up as reasons that they remembered on how to be successful on the rate to shift those. all of them remembered, again, some level of marketing in this process. What I don't have here on the screen, but you may be thinking about too, is what about unenrollment surveys? I mentioned 700 or so folks have unenrolled. We have about 100 responses from folks that have unenrolled in a survey, and we continue to gain insight from those. And while some of those may just be move-outs, as I alluded to before, the majority of folks have said they thought that their electric bill increased is why they decided to unenroll in the rate, or they didn't save as much money as they expected. So maybe they had some vision of what they might save and they weren't saving quite that much. So we're trying to monitor that as we get customer sentiment about this rate and why somebody would unenroll. So shifting gears now that you've heard a little bit about how customers are giving us feedback and what we're hearing, I wanted to make sure and touch on what COVID and pandemic might have on this rollout. It's definitely been a wild 2020 that everyone can agree with. But we've been working closely with our marketing team in real time to gauge and understand customer sentiment in general and experience specifically with this program. Additionally, we're in consistent communication with our evaluation vendor, Guidehouse, in discussions about how their analysis could be impacted. So let's dig into that a little bit. As you see here in the marketing top bullet points, as with most all of our customer communication, we switched solely to COVID-related messaging in late March and mid-May, meaning we're here for you type messaging, and we pulled the larger mass media opportunities that we might have planned for March and April to promote time of use. We saw a little bit of drop off on participation based on that. But we felt like clearly that was the right thing to do at the time. So we're going to continue to monitor customer sentiments. We didn't really see a ton of questions on time of use where we thought maybe customers would say, hey, I'm on this rate now and things are different. We saw limited there, but we still decided we would send additional communication to enrolled time of use customers, providing them new tips about being at home more and how can you adjust your schedule to make sure this rate's still successful for you, even if things have changed in your home. On the E&V research side of the house, I mentioned we've been working with our third-party evaluator, Guidehouse. They are working towards a full evaluation plan that's due at the end of 2021. But in the meantime, they're going to provide a update memo and presentation PowerPoint at the end of December of this year. And so we're talking to them about some impacts that can be explored. And a lot of this is behavioral, right? We're working on a behavioral program. And so we need to understand what other behavioral changes from quote unquote normal will impact maybe what the results are here. So you see a few of the bullet point items here that we might want to think about as we go forward. And I've even heard a couple additional that I didn't put on this slide here since, right? If even in September, school has started and that looks different for a lot of school districts. And so there may be more children at home than would have been otherwise, or daycare or other things might be different if that was impacting there. So there's an opportunity for them to have to take a look at that compared to prior years and see if there's something that can be adjusted or accounted for. Even looking at this, we're going to do a control group and a treatment group study here, and maybe that matched control group will look different just based on how COVID has impacted different customers in different ways through the course of this year. So we really look forward to hearing more from them on what they think might be driving, but it is unprecedented times from that standpoint and how we look into how customers' behaviors have changed at this point. I will give you just a little bit of teaser data that we monitor that doesn't have to do with behavioral data, but has to do with using, comparing existing time of use participants, the usage that they had in the same month on a time of use rate versus the same month on a standard rate. So they switch from a standard to a time of use. what we've seen, we took a sample of about 2,500 of the Missouri West territory. That's everyone that's still active or that may have enrolled. And for the whole period of time that they were on the rate, it looks like that sample saved about 3% as compared to the standard rate. So that's a positive impact there. Again, nothing to do with behavioral. We don't know if they changed their behavior. All we're doing is comparing what their usage dollar spend would have been on TOU rate or a standard rate for the same month. So it looks like they are saving some from that perspective, which is positive news. But again, we wait to hear a little bit more from Guidehouse on how the behavioral aspects might impact what that number could be or should be going forward. So we've hit a lot of the details that we hit in the agenda here. We're going to just talk about next steps briefly and then wrap up. Overall, we're going to continue to drive our participation numbers so we have a good sample to learn from here. As I mentioned, as you see here in the marketing part, we've got phase 2 of our mass awareness going on this month. We really expect an additional bump in participation in the second half or this last quarter of 2020. And so we'll continue to try and drive those participations up. We'll monitor those unenrollment numbers, as customers continue to, again, analyze as they get their rate coach reports. Are they saving? Do they think they should be saving more? And how that drives unenrollment. And as always with all programs and customer offerings, we want to continue to look for process improvements and learn and grow from that standpoint. From a E&V standpoint, I mentioned that we'll have a preliminary report in December of 2020, and those will include findings on the behavior metrics. So they'll dig deeper into the demand impacts, energy impacts, bill impacts, which I alluded to a little bit, and customer retention. Of course, they're going to try to manage data for the summer because we were very interested in how a summer might impact the time of use rate, although generally in Kansas City area this year, it was a somewhat cooler summer. I don't believe we got over 95 degrees on any days, but they'll take a look at that and see how summer and winters may impact behavior. And of course, the COVID caveat that customer behavior is definitely going to have been changed to some degree. It's a question of how do we continue to monitor that and see if we can quantify or analyze that. Additionally, we do have another meeting set up in October with stakeholders that helps us continue to build towards a time of use rate design study that's scheduled to be filed in summer of 2021, which will then be a leader into a future rate case. So we'll continue to work with stakeholders consistently and have updates through the process, even though we only do this formal on the record presentation every so often. So in summary, here's what we covered. Enrollment, 118% to goal. Very good, and it's going to keep growing. Education and marketing results, people react well to our materials and engage online significantly with the tools that have been designed for them. Our customer feedback showed that people are satisfied with the enrollment process and education in the program by and large. COVID is definitely going to impact us, and analysis is being done now to understand how that might have affected the behavior of customers during the period of this rollout. And we've got quite a few things still on the slate here to keep pushing this rollout on for the rest of 2020 and 2021. And we continue to engage with stakeholders and customers to provide a good experience with the program and learn from this experience. So that covers my prepared remarks for today. I'm going to turn it over for questions and discussion. Thank you again for your time.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Was particularly interested in the adaptations you have made due to COVID. I mean, as you alluded to, I'm very excited about time of use rates here in Missouri. But with my personal situation, I'm charging less at home right now. I'm working from home, so I'm using more during the day than I normally would. So I was glad to see some information on that. Any other questions from commissioners?
Yeah, this is Commissioner LaRue. First, I just want to say, great presentation, guys. Thank you very much. Very detailed, good information. I'm very pleased with the program. I think you guys have been leaders on this in the state and in the Midwest, and I think it shows. You guys are doing phenomenal. A couple of questions I did have is on the 49% of the customers that said that saving money was their primary reason. What were some of the other responses that people had chose?
Yeah, you're talking about customers that decided to sign up for time of use, and
Yeah.
what were their reasons? That was by large the largest one. I'm going to kick it to Jeff. He looked into that data a little bit closer. Jeff or Katie, do you know if what kind of some of the trailing answers were, the lesser percentage ones? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, Brian, this is Jeff. It was not, we didn't have one that really raised to the top like that first one did on energy savings. We did get a few on just environmental was probably our next reason. And then we got some just wanting to try something new or just, interested in kind of changing. So that was another high one. So more of the sustainability and just trying something new would probably be our second and third. But really after the energy savings, the rest were kind of in the 10% phase.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, kind of anticipated the environmental one being next. What do you have any data on those that the customers that switched from TOU back to a flat rate? If people did leave TOU, did they go back to the flat?
Yeah, so that apologize that I didn't present that data. That was the unenrollment surveys. So we have about 100 folks that have filled out a survey afterwards and went back to the standard rate. And that's the primary answers we saw there again were the idea that they didn't feel like they were saving money as much as they thought they were going to, or they thought their bill actually increased.
And do you have any data on those people who switched to TOU and what percentage of their bills did increase and what percent of them are still saving money compared to their previous flat rate?
I don't believe we've done that analysis like the post rate switch analysis where we see, are they actually then going back and saving money? Again, some of the things we were only doing is looking at just the same period, same usage to see. We could probably do that in advance, but we also wanted to see, what did part of the reason that they didn't save any money was their behavior changed, right? Because they were home more. That's also hard for us to tease out without kind of leaning on our evaluator to get into some of that data. So short answer is, I think that'll come up in our December EM&V report, some of that initial discussion, but we don't have that data run quite yet.
Okay, yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I completely understand. We'll look forward to seeing that later this year, and I'm pretty sure that COVID will probably skew some of those numbers as well. But overall, guys, a great presentation, great job on TOU rates in Missouri. Very pleased. Thank you. Thank you again.
Appreciate that very much. Got a great team doing all the work, so thanks for the kudos. I'll pass along.
All right, thank you. Any other commissioners with comments or questions? Okay, Matt, are you still on? Matt Doherty?
Yes, sir.
So I have a quick question not related to this, and I understand you're probably not prepared for a lot of data, but I received a notice yesterday of a new cooperative agreement that you all have reached with Ameren and an Oklahoma utility and an Illinois utility for a regional electrification initiative.
Yes.
Do you have anything that you can share with us on that? And based on what you know currently, should we be expecting any filings? Is there anything that's going to need approval of the commission?
Well, with regards to the specific announcement, what we indicated as part of that is that the individual utilities would have their own separate proceedings related to their EV and electrification plans. So I know for Evergy, we have communicated to stakeholders that we anticipate an eventual filing on electrification probably first quarter of next year.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just I thought that was an interesting announcement and was kind of excited about it and thought I'd take the opportunity to ask while we had you on the phone. So
Absolutely.
appreciate that. We'll look for that. It doesn't sound like we have any other questions from commissioners. So with that, thank you very much again for the presentation. That's always good to be able to go over this information. And with no further business coming before the body, we will stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,